Don't have a graphic for this topic either. Blame Photoshop for that. But the next thing we're diving into is NBA. It is the Philadelphia 76ers, and it's also the Houston Rockets. So Shams put out a little nugget today. This was talked about in our Discord group a little bit. Shams on The Athletic said, I'm told Philadelphia is expected to be interested in and pursue James Harden. Dave, is there any chance James Harden becomes a Philadelphia 76er?
Yes. Because why not? Like this is the modern NBA. This is the shit that gets people excited. The regular season, the NBA is cool and all. The playoffs pretty exciting. But you know what's really fun?
Yeah.
The off season.
It is.
The NBA off season is when teams are built. That's when all the fun happens. That's when all these crazy theory videos happen. And that's what I've been watching a whole bunch of lately. So
these trade videos, Dave. Dave's watching all them.
Oh my God, so many of them. So many. Every blog boy's got one, including us, where I don't really want to be a blog boy, but I guess technically we might be blog boys now.
Technically. It depends on how people view us.
Technically.
I mean, it depends. How often do we hit on things? I think we hit on things quite a bit, though.
I feel pretty confident about a lot of stuff like that. Right or wrong, that's the way I roll. So, yes, James Harden to the 76ers makes a lot of sense for the obvious reason of, well, guess what? Certain GM really liked James Harden. He just came from the team with James Harden, and he thinks that James Harden will win a championship for a team, and he's got that value. So he wants to bring James Harden with him over to the 76ers. And when you look at the 76ers, you look at the problems they faced. Well, that would be Ben Simmons being invisible in the playoffs on the offensive end because he is try not to be mean, a choke artist.
Choke artist.
He is easily schemed against, which is funny because that's what a lot of people call James Harden. James Harden is someone who in the playoffs, when times are tough, a lot of teams have kind of put that persona on him. So it's interesting that they're like, 76ers are going after somebody who has been shut down in the playoffs by other teams, but at the next level. I think that's the thing that's different here. Yeah. James Harden has had teams that should have been NBA champions or should have been in the NBA finals. And Ben Simmons, you can scheme around in the first round of the playoffs against any team 1 through 8, and they can slow down Ben Simmons. So that's the big difference. James Harden brings depth. He brings shooting. He brings an incredible pick and roll game, which if you could imagine what he and Joel Embiid could do to a team out there, it would be like Clint Capella on steroids. His defense is solid. You know, the question just comes, at what cost? You know, are we looking at a deal where it's going to look like the Paul George deal, where you're going to have to give up 3 first-rounders, 2 pick swaps on top of that, plus your young talent, plus a big contract to just eat the middle of that? So it's like, what's left for this team and what can they make happen? Are you going to get any ring chasers in the East? Not going for the Brooklyn Nets, because that's the obvious choice. You got KD, Kyrie, DeAndre Jordan out there. That's a team with ring chasers in my mind. But if you put James Harden on that Sixers team, and if they find a way to keep Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons on that team together, those 3 guys, question mark, can you make that happen? There's a chance. After this year, absolutely. There's a chance that team could win the NBA Finals. That's what I love about basketball. It's like, if you ask me if the Miami Heat had a chance to compete in the finals, I would be like, probably not. I mean, they're a good team, but they're not a great team. Turns out, if you get hot at the right time, hustle can win games. And James Harden can bust his ass out there and shoot threes like nobody else's business. He's one of the most efficient shooters of all time.
Yeah.
And it's because of his immense propensity of getting to the line. Like, he hits you from deep, he hits you in the paint, he can work with those guys, and he can be a leader that they've sorely needed in that team because Jimmy Butler got fucking pushed out of town, wrongfully so, because their head coach was an idiot.
Ring the bell.
Ring the bell.
So here's my problem, though. And you talked a lot about what James Harden brings to the 76ers, and you're right. Like, he would be amazing for that team. Do the Sixers have enough to pull the deal? And 2, would the Rockets want what the Sixers would be trying to sell them? And the question that I have, and maybe this is me being elementary here, but I feel like if I'm the Rockets, Ben Simmons would have to be involved. Like, I don't give a shit what your picks are, because if I'm giving you James Harden and you're keeping Ben and Joe, those picks are going to be useless because they're going to be at the end of the draft. Like,
ask the Clippers how that looks. Ask the Thunder how that situation is going to look in 5 years from now.
I mean, yet again, it could blow up in their faces, but I don't think it would, especially because like the contract situation.
The guy who's been injured for 3/4 of his career in Joel Embiid.
Yeah.
The guy who's been injured for a good chunk of his career in Ben Simmons.
But you look at it and let me see. I got to pull up Joe's contract because I've got the other two. So Joe and Harden are both at 3-year deals. Ben Simmons is at 5. Even with Joel injured, I think Harden and Ben could bring the Sixers to where they were this year at least, which is 20 and below. Like the Heat are 20th. I think the 76er pick is 22. So like a lot of those picks don't really excite me. Maybe it's the 2024s and the 2025s and like those would.
You're getting, a 2020 pick. You're getting a 2022. You're getting a 2024.
Yeah.
And you're getting a pick swap in like 2023, a pick swap in 2025.
But that's the thing. Are the Rockets going to want the future, or do they want what's going to help them now? And I feel like they're in a situation where I'm not trading James Harden from the Rockets if I am getting two things. A, the future, because those picks, although I trash them for being low, the up front ones,
this year.
more picks are better, more chances to scout guys. But also I'm in a situation where I'm like, I need to win now. Like I have a roster that can try to win now. I don't think they win now.
Who thinks the Rockets can win a championship going into this next season?
Rockets fans?
No.
You don't think Rocket fans think they can win a championship?
They had everything going for them this season and they couldn't win.
I mean...
And now you're telling me that we're going to have a healthy Golden State next year?
Yeah.
And LeBron with a retool team and the Clippers with a retool team?
I didn't even think they were going to win a championship when people thought they were going to win a championship. So you're speaking to the choir here.
The Jazz adding back Bojan Bogdanovic. I mean, the Nuggets getting a full season of MPJ, full health, Bull added to that roster, plus a draft pick. The Rockets are at a point where if you're even considering trading James Harden, you're already thinking rebuild. You're already thinking, I'm reloading this team for the future because the East, fine, you have your fun over there. The West is a slaughter show right now at the top. You don't want any part of that because you've already tried. They've ran their head into the wall as far as they can go, and that's great. But if I'm thinking about moving on from James Harden, I'm also thinking I'm moving on from Russell Westbrook. I'm going, hey, New York, what you doing over there? Would you like yourself a Russ? What other teams would be interested in him? I don't know. I'm just pointing at the obvious here. Maybe it's the Magic. Maybe it's a different team. Who cares? Point being is, if I'm even considering moving on from James, I'm already thinking I'm moving on from Russ. Well, I'm rebuilding this team. I've got great role players who every team would kill to get a pick, to get a PJ Tucker, a Robert Covington, someone of that talent. So you got to learn to flip those assets for the future, because that's one thing that Daryl Morey, well, I do like him as a GM and as a president of basketball operations. Yeah. He did not value draft picks very highly. He was someone who's like, I will take the veterans. I will take the guys who are proven and who've been there, done that. Think about how many years he's moved through his draft picks and how many guys are on that roster who are still draft picks. Like fucking none. Yeah. Literally fucking none. Like that was his whole thing on the Rockets. So you think as a 76ers fan, we're shifting these draft picks that we've got back here. We're going to go all in on somebody. That's the Daryl Morey move.
But that's the thing. I don't think at this point, like right now, as we're sitting here, November 3rd, 2020, you say the Rockets would enter a rebuild. I don't think the Rockets are there right now. Now, after this season, this next season that's going to start whenever it does, things change. Like, I don't think James Harden, if you're wanting James Harden to be traded to the Sixers this offseason, fat chance. There's like a 0% chance in my mind that happens because of the Rockets. And so they move on from Daryl Morey. They move on from Mike D'Antoni. I feel like the Rockets as an organization still want to, hey, we want to try to win with these guys. We don't want to enter the rebuild yet. That's how I feel the Rockets are. Whether they win, whether they don't, like, that's
no, but
besides
they
the point.
Have no money to use to fill out that roster, to fill those gaps, and they're potentially going to lose some of those depth pieces who played on dirt contracts that help them get there. So, like, I don't see a way that the Rockets can improve to close the gap between them and other teams in the West. And without that, why the fuck are we going to waste an entire season of value out of
Dave,
James Harden, Rocco, PJ, and Westbrook?
I
There's no
agree with
point.
you. I don't think the Rockets themselves will want to trade James Harden this offseason. I
They
think if
cleared
a
house
deal
at the
gets,
top. Why wouldn't they clear at the bottom?
I
That's
feel
my
like if a
question.
deal is going to get done, it's going to be done next offseason. And then it's like, okay, we can really see James Harden moving on to the 76ers. But at the same time, it comes back to my original point. How much will the Rockets want Ben Simmons on this team? Because if I'm doing what you're saying, and it's like, well, if I'm trading Harden, I'm trading Russ as well. Well, my biggest concern with Ben Simmons being on this Rocket team is how him and Russ would coincide together, both being ball handlers. But if I'm trading Russ, I don't have to worry about that. So, like for me, if I'm the Rockets, Ben's got to be in that deal because I want to then build around Ben. Like if I'm entering a rebuild, then I need at least somebody that I can build around because the draft picks that you're giving me up front are not going to be high enough to get a guy like a Ben that I can build around to where I
But
would
the
need
point
that.
is, if you include a Ben, that turns into James Harden for Ben Simmons in 2 picks. No
Mm-hmm.
swaps, no futures, no nothing. Just
Mm-hmm.
Ben in 2 picks, tops. Like
Well,
that's the problem. Instead of James Harden for, like Richardson or Toby and 5 picks,
mm-hmm.
you're getting Ben in 2 picks. And they might be this year in like 2023, or I'm sorry, 2022. So you're not even getting the prime years that you could be capitalizing on the downside of that Sixers team because they're
Mm-hmm.
going to be so volatile. Who knows what'll happen in 4 years from now? Like that's the thing. I look at this as a pure asset game, and if
Mm-hmm.
you're shifting around chess pieces, like give me a contract like Toby's, I can play Toby,
Mm-hmm.
I can inflate his stats, make him look great, and then I can try to flip him again. I can be what OKC did. You look at OKC, that is a template for how you take a team with superstars and you turn it into a team with prospects and
Mm-hmm.
potential. And I think that's exactly what this team can do going forward. And the timeline works perfectly because, like I said, they're capped out in the West. There's no fucking chance unless they go
Mm-hmm.
around and start injuring other players in the NBA that they can win a championship out there with this current roster as constructed. They don't have the money to get in a guy who will help them put them over the top. They have to do this. This is
Mm-hmm.
this is a must-do situation for the Rockets. And as a fanboy of the Rockets, as a Rockets stan, you know me. I've been tooting the Rockets horn for the last 4 fucking years.
Yeah.
It's the time. You've cleared out the top. You've cleared out the brain. You got to move on from the pieces. You got to reset. You got to reload. You got to figure out how are we going to make this team get us the best assets back in the right amount of time to line us up for success. And that's why I'm all in on the idea of they flip James, they can flip Russ. And the James one makes the most sense now.
Mm-hmm.
Russ is, if you want to flip now, you can. You still have more time
Mm-hmm.
to figure that one out. But the PJ, the Rocco, like those are
Yeah.
2 huge pieces. Eric Gordon, even like, what are you going to do with Eric
Well,
Gordon? What are you going to do with some of these other guys who are
yeah.
on like the tiny deals? So
Here's the other thing I'm going to throw into it. You mentioned like if you get Ben, you're not going to like, basically how are you going to build around Ben? What's your choice? I've got this then. And yet again, I don't know if these are the right prices. Maybe I'm overselling, underselling. But like, what if the Rockets did these two trades? So the first one's James Harden to the Sixers. You'd get Josh Richardson, Ben Simmons, Zaire Smith, and then the 2021 and 2023 first. So like you said, you're getting Ben, instead of getting like 3 picks and 2 pick swaps, you're getting 2 first rounders. But you're also getting like, you have to eat up like Josh Richardson and Zaire Smith. Zaire Smith, yet again, is hoping he pans out. But then like you mentioned the Knicks. I called the Knicks, hey, Russ is on the table. And in that case, I get like, and yet again, if this is done in next offseason, Mitch Robb entering his last season, what are they going to like? Are they going to be on a Mitch Robb is going to resign with us? Is it going to be a like, hey, let's use them in a trade piece to get a Russell Westbrook and get like a Mitch Robb and maybe 2 or 3 picks of the Knicks, where then it's like, okay, I'm getting Ben.
Mitchell Robinson and 5 picks.
Like
you are overvaluing what Mitchell Robinson is to a team.
Then 5 picks, then add 2 more picks. Like, but then at that point, I'm getting Ben in the Harden deal, but in the Westbrook deal, that's where I'm getting those draft picks that I want to help build around Ben now, those higher Nick picks, because.
But will they?
How much lower do you think that draft pick is going to be just with Russell Westbrook? Maybe it's out of the lottery because of the East, but I'm adding Harden to the East as well. But yet again, the Sixers, that's not changing anything. So maybe that's a little like
you're looking at pick 15 to pick 22, maybe.
I'm just looking at the Knicks being bad to be bad. That like even if they have Russell Westbrook.
Money. Again, that's the thing about the Knicks. They'll always have money to throw around at players, whether they want to play there or not. That's totally on them.
That's true. Like that's why I laugh. Is yet again, who's gone there that wants to play there?
Yep, nobody absolutely has the Knicks as a first option. It's money only, and that was Carmelo Anthony. I take it back. He chose money over winning basketball games.
Yep.
Sucky Carmelo Anthony.
But he was already there. That's the thing. Like that was re-signing with the Knicks.
Yeah, but he still fucked them over by forcing a trade a year early too.
Yeah, good.
But that was. He did himself in. Sucks to suck sometimes.
Yeah, I look at this and I go, if you ask me, will James Harden be a Sixer by the end of this contract? I will say yes. If you ask me if it's this offseason, I will say no. That's just how I feel about it right now.
I think the Rockets should go all in on moving pieces and start a fire sale. Get the value, get the picks, especially for the next couple draft classes. Both look incredibly deep. With like guys who could be breakout talents. So try to swing for the fences, build that draft capital up, move up in drafts if you need to, and get aggressive out there because you ain't winning anytime soon with that roster.
Yeah, and you do make good points. Like I personally believe what you say when you're like you're not winning in the West right now with what it is. Like I agree. It's just the leadership at the top for the Rockets, what are they thinking? Like
but they've changed. I understand.
Do they think they could run it back? Like, do they honestly believe that?
They've changed. Yeah, that's my thought. Is they've changed enough pieces in the front office and the coach that it's like, hey, this team, different direction, boys.
Yeah.